Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Seven Kinds of Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki, and with me today, of course, is my co-host, the one, the only, the author of Disaster and Destruction, Adega Outlaw.
Very good evening. Author of Disaster and Destruction.
Oh, shit.
Maybe in pieces.
In business, yes. I
How you
used to
doing,
say
Loki?
doctor. I used to say doctor, the doctor of Disaster and Destruction. I guess it's the author now. I don't know.
You know what? There's two people who are privy to news I gave you. Well, plus the people that were there, but I'm not really making it common knowledge just yet. But man, I got a massive compliment from probably one of two of the best people in the world who could give me a compliment about my writing, and I am still on cloud nine. So if you want to call me author, I actually believe it now.
Good. I do know who you're talking about too. I remember you telling me about that. And guys, let me tell you something. When you get a compliment from someone like who Adega got a compliment from, yeah, you're like, holy shit, really? You really think that? Holy shit. Awesome.
Yeah, good week so far.
Hell yeah.
How you holding up with all the drama that we talked about on your show this morning?
Oh man, you know what? There are people that are going to be pissed off that I covered that, and there are going to be people that are like, wham, wham, wham. You know what? I got someone coming on at the end of the month. I think will be very interesting, and I can't wait to hear from. So hopefully that happens. It's in the works, and hopefully I know they're going to be there. There'll be a kick-ass guest, but right in the middle of all of that drama, and you know what? It's just I will stick to my guns every time. We are not them, and we will never be them, and we will never sell our souls. And I think that really pisses them off.
Right.
I really do.
They keep throwing the line out to hook you and bring you in, and we just say, I don't need your bait.
That's right. I don't need your bullshit. I don't need your bait. The TV companies are pissed. We are stealing their viewers. We are stealing their subscribers. They are turning to us to get content instead of turning to them. So
it's a beautiful thing. And in a lot of ways, it really is a beautiful thing.
It is.
I'm sorry, actually, that's kind of a good transition to what I was going to talk about tonight. I have been spoon feeding little bits and pieces of a big story, and I got a little bit more tonight. Did you review what I gave you?
I've got the pictures up and I've got the video.
Okay, we'll save the video, but
I will share. Let me share the pictures.
Well, yeah, I guess any of the pictures would be fine, even the one that isn't really related, but mainly that old black and white photo. That's the one. Chateau d'Amour. And I do not know how to pronounce Belgian, but that is a place in Belgium. Kind of interesting. I found out about this, actually the location, not too long ago, maybe a year ago or so, but some of the details about it, most people really don't know. You think, it's a nice castle, someplace in Belgium. But some of you may have, and some of you may not have. And again, those of you who are savvy and are picking up to what I am telling you about the whole big picture, not the little bits and pieces. And it's a little bit more than what some of you are stringing along. You'll start to understand why Hollywood hates us so much. And this has nothing to do on the surface of Hollywood, but it has everything to do about dark forces. And this story here, specifically with this castle, has to deal with a group known as the Motherhood of Darkness. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of them. But think of them as the darkest of, or most disturbing, disgusting, evil of black magic witches. A coven of And we've talked about this before, and this is where you could start putting some of the pieces. You wonder why people can do some of the things that we're going to describe to you about. I gave you little teeny bits and pieces about MK Ultra and what they do at Disney. If you want to show that picture, it's actually a real good picture. The last one I gave you, we had talked about some of the things with Disney. These are, and it has listed there, all the different little Disney programs that these ladies were on. I don't know if we can really call them ladies, but women. And look what they turned out to be. Childhood stars who sell themselves. Something happened to them along the way. Last week I showed you, it was Shia LaBeouf. There were several others. But they all end up in very, very similar situations because they've all been damaged the same way. Now we get back to that mothers of darkness. Now, in order to get to where they can do some of the things which we're going to describe on the surface tonight, they have to be broken. They have to be torn down. You want to show, we'll get to these people a little later, but I do need you to show the two women. I don't know if you know who they were. Those. Some of you may know them, some of you may not. They call them the Dark Sisters or the Twisted Sisters. They are Bush daughters. Yes, those Bush. George Bush. And they had been sold out to the Saudis, prostituted out, broken to where they could be used for the New World Order. And you can go on your own and follow what has happened with them. I'm not going to get into details. But some say they are being initiated into the motherhood of darkness. What they do is they subject these young, sometimes as old as 2 or 3, into various forms of torture, mind control, like we've talked about, having them subjected to images and abuses, various different kinds, blood rituals, to where they become malleable and able to be manipulated into doing the things that the motherhood wants them to do and eventually take over. They all start at one place, but when they've been subjected to these things themselves, it becomes that much easier for them to do it to others. Now, the Disney people that I showed you before, they never got that far along. They became subjects, toys, playthings. Now let's go back to that chateau because it's an interesting place. It is in Belgium for a reason. I will let you investigate that. Just know that for some reason, Belgium, instead of The Hague or London or Paris or any of these other places in the European Union, happens to be one of the main centers. A little place of no influence and no military. And yet, they still have a royal family, even after the wars. And they still hold sway and a lot of influence. World leaders go there on a regular basis. And there's a reason why. Let's go ahead and start. The video that I have is spliced from, again, I told you there's a source that I use, and he allows, because he's an investigative reporter and allows people to use his stuff. So we're going to show a video, and it's clips of various different people that have had different experiences, and they're going to start piecing things together to you, specifically the last guy. We'll talk a little bit more about him when we're done. But if you don't mind, I may stop it after little bits and pieces. This person is Russ Dazdar. I can't pronounce his name. Either way, that picture there is just part of a duck.
Seem to be like deep satanic priestesses that have also been raised daughters and or granddaughters and have been over many of the women involved. So they are deeply well known in the underground of satanic ritual abuse and multiple personality disorder.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and stop that for a sec. The multiple personality disorder, I haven't touched on too much, but all of these things, like even with the Disney picture that we showed you before, the people that have been subject to it, almost all of them have multiple personality disorder. There are several different reasons, several different theories on it. Some of the reasons are obvious, that the psyche splits to protect itself. There are stories of people coming out, not very many because it's very difficult, but coming out of China from their torture camps or different places where they have, in order to save themselves, fractured their mind into different personalities, one that could handle the abuse and one that hides. The child inside becomes less dominant, and the ferocious, and the beast, and the one that can handle it becomes dominant. I actually put it in one of my my most recent book about a mage who had to split himself in order to do different things. But it's fairly common. There is also another excuse for these multiple personalities of these witches. And this is one of the growing beliefs in the metaphysical, not necessarily the scientific, that when you invite or play with or go to places that deal with satanic rituals, the evil spirits that are summoned set up residence in you, and those other personalities are not that individual at all, but it is one of these demons that have been invited into them and masquerade as a human for a time. I'll leave it up to people who have had more experiences than I in knowing this, but they are very easy to tell which is which, and especially in the cases of the MK Ultra, sometimes it just takes an image to switch from one to the other. All right, let's go ahead on to the next part.
This ritual castle in southern Belgium, and at first, this was in 1991, and a number of years transpired, and it was like I was a voice in the wilderness and nobody had heard. But eventually it did get heard. And what happened is in Belgium, the Belgian government was toppled. They had big protests in Brussels a couple times where there were over 500,000 Belgians protesting their government. And the reason why is because there was a big scandal that broke loose where people had discovered that there were satanic covens in their government, the government of Belgium. And this got connected in, and people then were able to connect what was going on and some of the people back to this castle that I had exposed.
Okay.
Sorry, this comes from the...
We're going to hear from that guy again in a few seconds. It's very easy to research what had happened with Belgium. There was a guy that was captured by the police. They had a whole rash of missing children, and it was getting really bad. And they finally found an individual who they were able to pin it on. And it was clear that he was part of it, where he was gathering kids and delivering to someone who was called, by clandestine script, they caught some of it, called Odin. He called himself Odin. And they went to this provider and said, we need certain articles for certain rituals. And this guy would deliver children. And the Belgianese discovered this. And they discovered that who he was delivering them to was people associated with the castle. Some of it had to do with the royals. the Windsors in particular. That name should sound familiar. It's of the same family that goes to England. Sorry if I'm going to piss anybody off, but this is all fact. One of these days, I'm going to tell you about the prosecution of some missing children of Native Americans, and some of which I actually know and have talked with. But anyway, so it blew up not long ago, and like I said, it's within the past 20 years. You can go and research it yourself, or maybe it's 25 years now, and you'll see that these are real facts. And the people that were involved, the judges, the police leaders, certain departments, some political figures were let off. They were never prosecuted, and it pissed the people off and almost destroyed their country, which probably would have been off if it had, but it didn't, and these people are still free today. All right, go ahead.
Sorry, this comes from the Sunday Times back in 1996, but here goes. Quote, Brussels satanic sects involved in bizarre rites, including human sacrifice, are being linked by Belgian police with this summer's string of grisly pedophile murders in which at least 4 children died. 5 witnesses came forward last week and described how black masses were held and which children were killed in front of audiences were said to have included prominent members of Belgian society.
All right. Now, it's something to tie in together. This lady's real interesting. We'll get to her in a sec. Something to tie in together. There were several different ones. I think it was last week when you saw the one blonde lady from Australia talking. Unrelated, but describes the same thing that happened in Australia. We could describe the same thing that happens all over, including Hollywood. We already talked about that. Are the pieces starting to come together for you? All right, let's go ahead on to the next one. This lady talks about something specific before you start. She is not the only one, trust me. I was desperately trying to find some of the others that I found, but they have been scrubbed. And I can't remember the names, which would have made it easier for me to narrow the search. But when you have testimonies from people and some of the stories, and I know some of you out in who'll probably watch it on the recast, because I know there's a lot going on tonight, but body language experts, even people, just common people like ourselves who, older people like me from Generation X, where instead of dealing things with digital, you deal with things person to person, and you're able to read body language, you're able to see truth in people. You'll know that these people really did go through what they did. And here's one of them. Go ahead.
Right before that, we got a $5 super chat from Psychodorf 9. Howdy, y'all. I got upper management white gloving some floors tomorrow, so upper management can white glove next week. Thanks. Thank you so very much for that $5 super chat, Psychodorf 9. Skull, brother.
When they played Most Dangerous Game, I was stripped of my clothing. I was allowed to wear tennis shoes and told that I could have a head start and begin running before I would be hunted down. My exposure to it resulted in my believing I had no place to run and no place to hide. It seemed there were no limits to what could happen.
Sorry about the audio.
It was one of the most extreme situations I think I ever survived.
Okay, go ahead and stop that. You want to bring up the, we'll get back to, what is that, the 6-minute, 20-second mark. Bring up the picture of the staircase. There. I ask you a question. Why is there a staircase in the middle of nowhere? If you're a hunter of deer or geese or whatever you want, you're out in the forest, some people even bear, big game, the last thing you want to do is become so obvious as to have a stand or a stairwell to nowhere in the middle of a forest, and yet there is one of them, and there are many of them.
No, you'll be in a camouflaged hide, or you'll be up in a tree in a camouflaged stand. You won't be in a staircase.
Right. Now, they never tell you what this is. I am going to tell you what this is. This is through intense supposition, and from many of these stories, that staircase, along with, and all you have to do is look up lone staircase in the woods or staircase in the forest. You'll find pictures of these, not the trail ones, but things like this all over the world. And you heard the lady before, if the audio was working, she talked about the most dangerous game. That is one name for it. The one girl I wanted to bring up and have some of her testimony as a video, I couldn't find. This is fact, and this is why Hollywood made a movie that was almost completely banned and eventually was shown about conservatives being hunted down by people. This most dangerous game is they're hunting children. In her case, she escaped. The one I wanted to show with you was a particularly terrible story and you could tell that this girl was honest, and there's corroboration for it, where she was bred to be a slave, and the way they performed the hunt when she was there, and this was in England, was they would go out fully clothed, a pack of 4 or 5 children, and various different dignitaries, even the police in some cases, would hunt them down. They wouldn't kill them, but they would do terrible things to the child and then remove one article of clothing. And this continued on until the children were naked. And if the children tried to run away, she recalls seeing some of them pinned to a tree after being bled. This is real, folks. This is what the society does. This is called the most dangerous game. And this is why you see it coming through Hollywood, because they know all about this. Go ahead. Next part of the video was like 6 minutes, 20 some odd seconds. I think it was 6 minutes. Did we get that far? No, it was 2 minutes. My vision's so bad.
Eyewitnesses who had been in rituals in the castle where children were sacrificed, and the blood of these children is drained, and quill pens are filled up, and the blood is used to write an account of what the Illuminati have done that day and bring about the plan.
And disregard the name of the Illuminati. Whether or not that's true or not is a different story. This guy is fascinating. I have gone through his story many, many times. His name's Ronald Bernard. He was a banker in Belgium, and he was quite conniving, very, very good at what he did, manipulating currency, sending our taxes to various different shell companies, then being reshipped back to politicians around the world to keep funding this system. He didn't name any names. He said, you know what? He got out, but he was smart enough not to point the finger at anybody, but you can get an idea. He actually testified in front of I showed you one of the clips yesterday of the big tribunal that they had, and he was one of the people that was testifying at the tribunal. He does speak English poorly, but this one is done in his native language, and I guess you may have to try and blow it up bigger because it's all done subtitles. I can explain what he talks about. Like I said, I've almost memorized this thing. But the subtitles are kind of important. I'm sorry I didn't get you a bigger picture.
No, it's because I've got it on my second stream. That's one of the ways I can. Give me just a second, because that's going to be the chat. Hold on. Let me see if I can't blow it up. on the. Give me just
I would
a
encourage
second.
all of you guys to listen. You can find his testimonial, look up his name. It's about 2 hours long. It's worth listening to the whole thing. It will disturb you.
Okay.
This gentleman was, like I said, he was a banker. Some people approached him, said, hey, if you do this on the sly, we'll be okay. And he said, great. And they kept doing things, and they found out he was trustworthy. They started inviting him to these wild orgies, and he thought he was living the good life with these wild orgies that they had. And it kept going. They kept trusting him with more and more until this point here.
Bring about the plan.
It was the good life. But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices abroad.
Look how he reacts.
That was the breaking point. Children.
You were asked to do that?
Yes. And I couldn't do that. The purpose of the whole thing, eventually, in that world, is that they have everybody in their pocket. You need to be susceptible to blackmail. And blackmailing me proved to be very hard if I look back on it.
He talks about his childhood was very rough. And the reason why he couldn't do it to children was because he saw himself there and how he was able to escape. And he turned his back on it and created a new life. One of the more beautiful things about this gentleman is he said that we oftentimes have to split ourselves in two. And we've talked about this. I've talked about this. There's the face that we present to everyone, that we deal with our daily stresses. And there's that little magic, that divine that's inside of us. And he says it got buried, and it gets buried in everyone. Some people have become so far buried they can never get it out because they become evil. But fortunately for him and his example, he is showing that, he's letting his inner child, as he says it, come out. But I do encourage you to go find his story and listen to the whole thing. All right, last little bit, the part of the castle. And I'm old enough to have remembered we're going to show in just a sec. And all of us at the time, all of us were puzzled. What is this? Is this some kind of program? Is this a new initiative? And it never came about until later the truth of it was exposed. So go ahead.
I've spoken of 1,000 points of light.
Dream and 1,000 points of light.
But nobody bothered to question that. And he said that at least 4 to 6 times. I talked to a lady just recently in Baltimore. She came up right after the meeting in Baltimore, and she came up and she said, everything that you said tonight, I can verify. She said, because I was George Bush's campaign manager. And she proved it. She pulled out the campaign manager badge that she had when she was campaign manager when he was going for presidential election. And she said, I was there the night that he made that address. And she says, now I understand what that meant. Because she said, I looked at George and I said, after he stepped off the platform, I said, George, I don't know about that New World Order thing. She said, but I want to be a part of that 1,000 points of light. And she said, he grabbed her by the shoulder, looked her sternly in the face and said, I have no control over them.
All the rhetoric used to hear the 1,000 points of light. What the hell was that, by the way? 1,000 points of light. I never quite got that one. I'm trying to say, what the hell is that? Has anyone ever figured that one out?
Actually, we had, and he knows. Inside that castle that I initially started with, where these mothers of darkness perform their rituals, is a large room, well decorated, and on the ceiling are 1,000 lights. And guess who has visited that castle? There are very, very few pictures of it. This is not the room, but the castle hides many, many pictures. But this is where the 1,000 points of light are. And this is why this is not something that just happens in Belgium or the United States or Britain, but it's all our civilized nations. It is in every business in some form or another. Not necessarily small businesses, but we're talking big institutions, banking, governments. It's everywhere. And like I said, I'm spoon feeding you little bits and pieces. You can do your homework and not trust what I am telling you, but investigate yourself. Because I am not lying to you. These people are not lying to you. This is real. All right. Another piece of the puzzle will come hopefully next week.
Thank you, Adega. Thank you very much. That man, you got me. I want to know where the rabbit hole goes, brother.
It's deep. It's deep.
So tonight we are going to continue following some creepy tales from R.M. Staniforth over on Creepypasta. If you would like to read along tonight, I am going to throw the link out there. This story is called How Much Does Fame and Fortune Cost? I found the answer. It was written December 22nd, 2020. How much does fame and fortune cost? That's a question that ate at me for years, and a question that I, unfortunately, found the answer to. Now modest wealth and even minor fame alone are much less costly. You can achieve that from commitment and hard work to something that can be revenue generated. The commitment required is so extreme that it could probably be characterized as an obsession. This can be anything from creating a successful tech startup to making hundreds of YouTube videos of supercars and purple Lamborghinis. The problem is that even modest wealth costs years and years of hard work and commitment. If simple wealth is what you want, I implore you to take that route. Don't make my mistake. Years of hard work and sacrifice for modest wealth wasn't good enough for me. No. I had a gluttonous desire for two things: fame and fortune. But I wanted it the easy way. I had not the fixation or the drive to spend years developing a local business or next-gen startup. I wanted the quick way to instant success and fame. I heard rumors and legends about how anybody could get it, so I set off to find it. Honestly, it wasn't difficult. She can sense it. She knows if you are desperate enough that you would undergo incomprehensible atrocities in order to achieve it. I vividly remember the night that I sold my soul. No, it's not a myth. The devil is real. I didn't even need to find her. She found me. My soul must have reeked of desperation. She came to me at a bar while I enviously gazed from the corner of beautiful women flocking toward the handsome man who wore expensive clothing and showed off an impressive Jaguar. I never saw her walk into the bar or even make her way toward my lonesome corner. I just turned my head and there she was, the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. The red lights of the bar reflected off her luscious black hair and dark gray eyes. I scrambled for some sort of pickup line, but before any words could make their way to my lips, she leaned in, teasingly, putting her lips just centimeters from mine. I know what you desire, she whispered, stroking my cheek with her soft fingers. I know your dreams, and I can give it all to you. I can give you everything. With only a slight pause, I closed the gap. As soon as our lips touched, the bar and people around me faded away in black smoke to be replaced with a new setting. I found myself sitting in a dark movie theater. The dark red seats were empty, other than myself and the beautiful woman that was sitting next to me. I pulled away from the woman, scared and confused at what had just happened to me. I thought that maybe someone had spiked my beer with some sort of hallucinogenic drug. Sit down and watch, the beautiful woman said. The lights dimmed and the screen came to life as the woman had told me to do. I sat down and watched. On the big screen played videos of me, but a very different me. Instead of staring at a broken TV in my studio apartment, I was living my wildest dreams. I was beautiful. I was rich. I was famous. The video showed me driving cars far more expensive than the average house, living in an expensive mansion, walking down the red carpet with two beautiful women at my side. People screamed in joy as I walked down the aisle, shoving papers towards me and begging me for an autograph. The video cut off and changed entirely. Now it showed the real, unkept me living my disparaging life. The video showed me getting rejected by every woman I had the guts to approach. I saw myself with slumped shoulders waiting tables for snobs that I hated, taking long draws from my metal flask in a trashy bathroom. Finally, it showed me utterly alone in my ugly apartment, the only social interactions coming from the cheap prostitutes I could barely afford. I started crying pathetically in that theater, watching the ugly truth of my life filled with self-destructive thoughts and behavior. I looked over at the beautiful woman who stared at me intently, seemingly enjoying my despair. "Who are you?" I asked, after brushing away my tears and embarrassment. "Oh, but you already know who I am. You already know what I can do for you," she responded with a cold smile. She was right. We both knew who she was. For this moment, I wasn't sure if she was real, but I desperately wanted the opportunity to make my deal. Because, after all, she had found me. She didn't even have to ask. We both knew that I would do anything to live in that reality. The movie theater disappeared, another wave of black smoke, and now I sat in a black room with multiple video cameras pointed to the center of the room. With very few words, she explained to me that I would have to do in order to obtain that reality of fame and fortune that I was so desperately craving, the reality that she promised she could give me. I accepted her offer without any questions, without even thinking it over. What I did next was the most heinous and awful thing that any human could ever do. My actions were so terrible that I will not speak of it, ever. I can't explain the shame I feel every day, knowing what I did and how I selfishly hurt. The very fact that I wanted easy fame and fortune so badly that I willingly committed these atrocities that so few would ever do proves that I am a true monster. I wish I could say that I was forced into doing it, but that's not true. I had a choice. I could have walked away right then and gone back to my meager life with a new resolution to work hard for success. I should have chosen that course of action, but I didn't. Instead, I used my last moment of free will to choose to do horrible things for my promised fame and fortune. She watched every last moment with a smile on her face and a song in her heart. After I was done, she placed a large piece of brown parchment on a small black table. It was the contract. Next to the contract lay a black knife. I should have read the contract, but I didn't. As directed, I eagerly sliced my hand and let my blood pour onto the contract. The deal was done, and the sale was complete. She rolled up the contract with a smile on her face, and again the scene faded away into black mist. I awoke the next morning thinking that I had simply had a wild and crazy dream. With a disappointed sigh, I got out of bed and walked to my bathroom. After splashing some water on my face, I looked up in the mirror to find that my body had indeed changed. A smile crept onto my face. It really happened. I was more beautiful than I could have possibly dreamed. I was the version of myself that she had shown me in that movie theater. I picked up my phone to find that I had a voicemail from the man I now know as my agent. He told me that she had assigned him to me and that I had a confirmed appointment with my new recording studio the following day. Per his direction, I found my first-class plane ticket on my dining table next to a brand new designer watch. An expensive, freshly tailored suit waited for me in my closet. Suitcase sat by the door filled with designer clothing that I would never have been able to afford in my life. I put on my suit and watch, grabbed my luggage, and left that shabby apartment and everything in it behind. Driver in a black luxury car waited for me outside to drive me to the airport. Within a few months, my record-breaking album was released, and I immediately had it all. The beauty, the fame, the fortune, and the new talents that she had given me. I live in an exclusive gated mansion with tens of millions worth of cars in my garage. My financial accounts have 9 zeros, and I'm constantly surrounded by exclusive celebrities and beautiful women everywhere I go. Anytime I'm in the public, people anxiously await a simple handshake or an autograph, if only they knew what these hands had done. It may seem like I have it all, but there is one thing that I lost and I never will have again. I no longer have free will. I am forced to do everything and anything that I am told. I wear what I'm told to wear. I sing what I'm told to sing. I say what I'm told to say. I go where I'm told to go. And I do what I'm told to do. Hell, I even tweet what I'm told to tweet. Like so many before me, I am just their puppet of influence. The worst part, though, those horrible actions that I did, those weren't a one-time thing. As I said, I should have read the contract. Once a year, I'm forced to do it again. I don't have a choice. I tried to refuse once, but they own my soul. With a simple snap of their fingers, I was instantly overcome with a pain worse than you could possibly imagine as I begged for them to make it stop. Try that one more time, she said, and I will rip your soul to pieces. So, back to the question. How much does fame and fortune cost? Everything.
If you look in the chat, yep, there it is.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just amazed he wrote this. Our special writer, R.M. Staniforth, who I have got a link here that I'm going to throw in the chat. That is his Reddit, ladies and gentlemen. R.M. Staniforth. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I couldn't have asked for a better story to read tonight. Kind
of seems fitting that, I kind of hint on where this is all leading up to, and you got a big chunk of it with the story written by someone who obviously knows the same thing that I do.
Me and Adega do not coordinate, ladies and gentlemen. He sends me pictures and maybe a video clip, maybe 30, 45 minutes before a show. There is no way for us to coordinate. We don't coordinate. We don't do it ahead of time. I read my story. He does what he does. That is the way it works. Just like the way me and Mexican Iron Man do things. We just do what we do. Me and Adega just do what we do. So the fact that it turned out like this, it just fits and it just works.
Right. And Pat S., do you really want to know what those staircases are for? You didn't figure it out? It's a hunting blind, only not so blind. Where someone because these are always performed in very dark nights, can climb on there, get their bearings, and know where to find their next victim.
Chris Persia, thank you, brother. Thank you so very much, guys, for being here.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about this crazy guy next to me. For some reason, we get along. I just don't understand it. It's kind of like, there's a wavelength connection somehow. Strange.
Adega started the Light the Fires Valhalla. Adega started lighting the fire. Before I ever started lighting the fires in Valhalla, Adega was lighting that fire. So
wow. Someone had the matches.
Oh, thank you guys.
You brought the matches and you put them in front of me. You know darn well I'm going to light it. It's like gunpowder. I'm going to play with this stuff.
Yes. Oh, shit. We will be back next week. Guys, if you are part of the membership, if you are in the membership, we are going to have a membership stream tomorrow, 5 p.m. Don't miss out. Member stream tomorrow, 5 p.m. That'll be the last member stream of the month. We're going to have a Discord hangout this Sunday, and the movie watch party is held back a week because I will be in Houston next weekend. So,
and you still got time. I don't expect anyone to win. That's why I'm putting this out. If anyone can guess the alternate name for Big, or you won't be able to guess it. You'll have to know from reading the book. Still waiting. Like I said, I don't expect anyone to get it because I have plans for that model of the spaceship for my books. So anyway, it's still waiting, and I'm going to close the door on it pretty soon because I don't think any of you are going to get it.
And thank you, Mark. Thank you, Purple Valkyrie. Thank you, Chris Persia. Big thank you to the Wrenches here tonight. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and for Wrenching and all the chat. Thank you guys so very much for being here and hanging out with us. We will be back next week. I can't wait. Thank you again, Adega, for being here.
That's always fun.
No, yeah. Thank you guys. They're true. Thank you guys so very much. We will catch you guys next time. Have a great night.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.